Today on the Coaching Life podcast.
I think it's important for head coaches to know that you surround yourself with people that you can trust to do big things. Great leaders are able to surround themselves with people that they're able to give responsibilities to make their team or their organization or their program good, better. Welcome to the Coaching Life. My name is Pat Martin. Glad to have you. I'm here. Oh, Coach, you know what I just realized? I failed you. You volunteered, committed me that the next time that we were together, we would be, or the next time that we came together to record, we would be together.
That is
physically.
Correct. Yeah, and it's obvious from listening to your voice that you're not sitting in the same room with me, right?
You can hear that? Is that clear?
Well, maybe not everybody recognizes it, but I mean, your quality on your end is coming through a phone, like through a Zoom call or a Teams call. So It's not like sitting behind a microphone in a studio.
Right.
It's still been good quality.
And you know what else?
I think it's good quality still. It's been good.
But just knowing how you view quality in terms of audio and video and image quality, I would say you're probably lying right now. But we'll just move.
I'm conceding. Yeah, I'm.
You're just saying that it's okay.
It's doable.
I've had to talk you into that a couple times. We've had some pretty bad experiences recording that. Yeah. It was like, it just gutted you, and I was like, it's all right. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah. Because the truth is, I listen to a lot of podcasts, Pat, and there are a lot of podcasts that are pretty well known. I mean, top-notch podcast, and it just sounds like they sit in front of their laptop and hit record with no microphone. Yeah. Just use the microphone. It's like, you're echoing like crazy, I don't know. I guess it just if you can, like, if you have the ability to make it better, then make it better, right?
Do the best, right?
Be the best you can be in everything you do. So
Speaking of
great
that,
introduction to today's episode.
Well, here's the introduction. It's March 28th. Right?
It is. It's the day after my wife's birthday.
I know.
Her birthday was yesterday.
What? I know. I saw that today, and I'm like, I missed April's birthday.
That's all right. We weren't around. We got to spend it down in Philippi, West Virginia, watching Brock play baseball, and it was really cool. We got there, and all the fans had to sit in the outfield because West Virginia's got this wonderful rule. Well, it's not. I don't know if it's West Virginia or if it's the MEC, the Mountain East Conference, or if it's Alderson Broaddus. I don't know who it is, but somebody's got a rule that says that no fans could sit inside the fence, and so it was just players inside the fence, and the purpose was for them to be able to just spread out, right? And so what they did was, I mean, you got to commend the staff for doing this. They actually went out and cut out pieces of their. They've got a windscreen, or they've got windscreen slats in the fence.
I was going to ask about that
so it's not a wall. They could actually have the ability to cut those out, and they did. They cut sections of it out, and there's a little drive behind the outfield fence, and typically students will go out there during baseball games and park their pickup trucks and kind of sit in the back of the bed of the pickup trucks and get a little rowdy out there and things like that.
Absolutely.
Well, we still had a little bit of that also, but there was also it was just people from foul pole to foul pole, shoulder to shoulder. Well, shoulder to shoulder. It's all right.
You can't say that. You can't. No, you can't.
Out there.
You can't.
And it was wonderful. It was really cool. I mean, it was far away from the game, but it actually was better than I thought it would be. But anyway,
Can I say this?
Go ahead.
Being there, that rule was 100% absolutely ridiculous. Okay, carry on.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah, totally. Yeah. We didn't get any good pictures or anything like that, but that's okay. We got to see two exciting games. They won both. Won the first one 3-1.
2 wins, yeah.
2 wins, baby. Yeah. And then the offense just exploded in the second game. They won 16-4. But both conference games was really good day. what was I going to say? At the beginning of the game, it was April's birthday, and the left fielder comes out, and he's like, Mrs. Stewart. He was like, and he was kind of asking. He knew she was out there. Brock told him that she was out in the left field area, and so he's got a baseball in his hand. And we're like, yeah, she's over here. And so he tosses a baseball over to her, and it was signed by Brock, said, "Happy birthday, Mom," and I love you and all that. So it's kind of put tears in April's eyes, and nice little birthday
sweet
gift. Yeah.
Heck yeah, so, that's awesome.
Yeah. Then we got to go away with a couple wins. Got to go out to eat a new restaurant that was just down the road from the ballpark, and it was a good day. Good day. Brock was 2 for 4, so
hit the ball well.
Ball well. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I know there's, I feel bad because I know there's only one thing that would make April cry more than Brock telling her happy birthday, and that's me telling her happy birthday, and I missed it. So since she's a big,
she'll hear this on the podcast then.
Because she's a big listener. So I'll say happy birthday, April. Sorry I missed you.
Mm-hmm.
Glad you got to spend it watching some baseball.
No doubt.
Speaking of baseball, we have some April 1st is actually opening day for Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Or should I say, let's see, April 1st is opening day for baseball.
Nope.
True or false? That's wrong. Right off
False.
the top, right? We talk a lot about how sometimes people, and when I say people, I mean Major League affiliates, think that the game of baseball exists only in their world.
Well, in the press,
right.
If it's not professional, I mean, using the word baseball's in trouble, or baseball's doing this, or baseball's got some stupid rule changes. Nope, that's just those guys that got too much time on their hands and too much money. And I mean, the baseball's bigger than Major League Baseball. But I get
Absolutely.
it. I get it. Yeah.
Yep. And if Major League Baseball would have been postponing opening day this year on April 1st,
mm-hmm.
it wouldn't have changed the fact that tomorrow, March 29th, in Ohio, is opening day for high school baseball.
It is for our team. Yeah.
True. Well, yeah, right.
Yeah, technically opening day was the 27th. Those games on Saturday were real games. Those weren't scrimmages.
Shoot, you know what? I knew that because Megs actually traveled to Warren and played on the 27th.
Yeah, a lot of people had scheduled doubleheaders on the first day. Yeah.
Good point. Well, what a horrible segue.
No, it's okay. It's an honest mistake. Well, because you're thinking about your most important person right now in your life is me, and you're thinking tomorrow's opening day for Coach Stewart, and so.
Well, I know you've. So. I'm glad you didn't go there. That would have got me in trouble. The most important team in my life.
Oh yeah, right. The most important. The only team that you're thinking about right now is your favorite team, the Eastern Eagles.
So just to clarify, the 27th, was that the first day that Ohio baseball could?
That was opening day for Ohio high school baseball, and not everybody plays on opening day. A lot of schools don't want to schedule double headers anymore. So some people just played single games on Saturdays, but there were a lot of double headers as well.
Interesting.
Well, and the reason for that is because of the pitch count rules, and it becomes difficult to throw 2 guys on Saturday, knowing that most conferences, most leagues have conference games Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yep,
and
that's interesting. I wonder if I could almost see doubleheaders going away.
Yeah, they in large part they have.
Because I mean, it's a season
or you have
game,
a varsity JV doubleheader. A lot of people schedule that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that way it doesn't go against your record, because. Mm-hmm. Right. So how late will you be up tonight, Coach?
Well, it depends because we're recording a podcast. Got to get that up. Yeah. When I've got some things to mull over. I got all the communication sent out before you and I got sat down to podcast, and so everybody knows what time the bus is leaving, and they know what uniform to wear and who's going, who's not, because we've got some guys that are 2-way guys that are going, with varsity, or even other JV guys, and our JV is not playing tomorrow, so I had to communicate with them. They're actually not going to practice tomorrow either. They got an opportunity to come and watch a varsity play. They also have 3 games this week. Varsity only has 2. JV's playing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week, so we'll all practice. Yeah, we'll all practice Tuesday, and then they'll finish their week with 3 games in a row, and. So Yeah, that developmental group, I've been really pleased. You know, we were nervous because we're we are the only school in the Hocking division of our conference that's fielding a JV team separate from our varsity team. And so when we found that out, that meant that we had 3 JV games on our schedule. And so we started scrambling really, really quickly. I'm talking like a week ago to get JV games. And so now we are up to 13 JV games. And so that's a good number. Yeah. Yeah. Especially since a lot of those games are going to be played on opposite nights of when varsity is playing, which means that's an additional night for, well, our coaches, because now our coaches are going to want to be at those games as well.
Sure.
You know, our whole staff, not just JV, you know, and then it's an additional night for the field use, things like that. We had to coordinate practice around that as well whenever JV's at home, and we still want to practice varsity and everything. So, there are a lot of variables to it, but I'm glad that we were able to get it done.
I like that setup. I think when I coached JV, the JV coaches always, I mean, I'm thinking our schedule was about the same, to be honest. We may have played a couple more games. We may have played around 15, but it didn't seem like they were ever on separate nights in the varsity. And so I never spent time with the varsity. Yeah,
most teams don't. I mean, you know, my own experience at Athens, we never and it's going to be kind of nice, I think, because I anytime I had a chance to go watch our JVs, I wanted to do that, but it was realistically only maybe once a year, because they were always playing when we were playing, just in an opposite location.
I got you.
And so that's going to be a nice change this year to be able to be around them more. And I'm, you know, I like it because we practice together anyway. But once the games, you know, once the games begin, you don't see each other very often, and then it becomes like 2 separate programs.
Right.
And you don't want that feel. You want them to know we're all. I mean, even though technically, it's 2 separate teams, it's one program.
Yeah. Now, when you were at Athens, did your JV and varsity practice together?
We did, all the way up until opening day.
Really?
And then,
interesting.
Yeah, and the reason for that was because the coaching staff was just so good when we were all together.
Yeah.
Having everybody together, and
you just had a lot of players. I know. You know,
it
especially
was.
there.
Yeah. But you know, to have. And we didn't have a lot of facility, but you know, when you got a cage that's close to the field, you can do some things with that as well. Like this past week when we practiced JV and varsity, because we you know, we don't have as many players at Eastern, but
right.
But you know, like we'll send the JV out to the cage to do offensive work, you know, around the cage and nets, and then inside the cage as well, while varsity's doing some defensive work on the field. And then what we did was we brought the JV over, and we had varsity BP on field, and that's when JV did defensive work. They got live reps off varsity BP then, and just kind of mixed it. We there's some creative ways you can do it, things like that.
Yeah.
So,
yep. Gotcha.
Do you want to be a student manager? I tell you what, I've had a hard time getting a student manager. And I don't know if it's because this is a small school district and a lot of the kids who would be interested in this kind of thing are already athletes. Playing running track or playing softball, which are the only 2 spring sports we've got at the school district. But I can't. I have put out pleas and some job descriptions, and I've tried to sweeten the deal by saying, you know, you do this well for 2 years, you'll earn a letter.
How old do they have to be?
Well, I'd prefer they be high school students.
Yeah.
And it could be anyone, athlete or not, male, female, no requirement to know anything about baseball, nothing. I mean, you know, preferably somebody that kind of likes math and stats and things like that, you know. Because these are going to be things that you know, when I'm thinking a student manager position, I'm not thinking of like, you know your typical person, like I guess in a basketball
equipment
manager. Yeah, they're filling up the water bottles and taking care of towels and things like that. Maybe doing laundry and stuff like that. That I'm actually not thinking of it in that way at all. I'm thinking of it in terms of being in charge of our technology, for example, setting up our camera, being in charge of the GoPro. If we run a live stream, being in charge of that, and then maybe even game film editing, like take our game film and cut out all the in-between pitch stuff and all in-between inning stuff and give me like a 40-minute version of our game. or 30-minute version of our games so that we can go have film study and things like that. Do pitch charts.
You should have changed the name.
What should I change it to?
Student technology assist.
Well, it's not just that though. I mean, that's just part of it. I mean, I want them to take our pitching charts and tally all those, and our quality at bats charts and tally those, and assist with communication, like our team app and things like that. I mean, just be available. Be there. I mean, I want these people. Maybe I put too much on them. I overwhelmed them because I want them to ride the bus. Be at all games. They don't have to be at all practices necessarily, unless we're trying to measure something, or film.
Man, I love this job.
Yeah, I think kids would love it. But I think that in our area, it's such an uncommon. Well, it is. It's an uncommon thing. I actually never had one before. Well, that's not true. I did, but I never had a student. Well, that's not true either. I did have a student, but I didn't put a plea out. Like, I didn't make it a plan to have one every year. There were years that I had. There's one year where I had an assistant coach who just liked this kind of stuff. He's like, I'm not necessarily good with baseball, but I'll keep the scorebook. So he did our Game Changer on the iPad, and he took care of all the technology and things like that. And he did all the stats, and he ate that up. And so that was his role. Well, then I had a student one year who came to tryouts. He knew he wasn't going to make the team, and so he came up to me and he said, "Hey, coach, I really want to be around the team and the game. These are my friends, and I know that I'm not going to make the team. You're going to cut me. Is there anything I can do?" And so we sat down and talked about it, and I kind of went over some of this stuff with him. And you know what? I wish I would have had the wherewithal back then to make it a regular thing every year, to turn it into because we actually did give that kid a letter that year for doing the role that he did. Yeah. So I'm actually making it part of my baseball managerial routine every year to try to find a couple of student managers. Not even one. I'd like to find two every year. But at this point, I would just settle for one. I don't have any. So.
And you told your parents and.
Oh yeah, I've put the plea out there. Yeah. And we've had some people, inquire about it. We've had a few people who said, "Oh, I know a couple of girls are just smart as can be. They're sharp as a tack. I'll talk to them. But then they kind of come back to me, and it's like the response they get is, "I don't know anything about baseball. Like I can't get that across that it's not. That's not in any of the requirement. I mean, you don't have to."
It's the same thing as when you talk to kids about playing baseball. They're like, "I'm no good at it."
Yeah, and they give up.
That's great.
They give up
this
before
is
they get a
7th grade.
chance. Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's develop.
You're not supposed to be good at it.
Right. We're supposed to
Do you
practice.
like it?
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, I've even said this. You don't even have to like baseball, because I guarantee you this: you get around it, and you start doing these jobs, you're going to love it. You're going to fall in love with it, and you might even find that you want to be connected with this kind of a role in college. You might even find that one day you want a career in the game of baseball.
By the way, if you could land a job that is doing that type of stuff, you'd be making a lot of money, probably more money than most of the Major League Baseball players.
That is the truth. And I'll tell you something else. If you're a female right now in today's world, and you would like to have a career in the game of baseball, do this. Yeah, start at your local high school. Ask about the student manager position and some of the things that I just rattled off there over the last 10 minutes, and say, "I'll do these things for you," and then go to college and study, something in the realm of, it might be athletic, if it was something that you like, but then see if you can get involved in being you can study anything in college probably, and ask the baseball coach, or it doesn't have to be baseball, it could be any sport. I think right now the time is really ripe for young women who want to get in the field of athletics. Yeah.
Every league is trying to incorporate more and more. They're intentional about getting women officials, women coaches, everything.
Yeah. I'll put this out there. I'll say
That's
this.
a good point.
I'm not aware. I would have to ask our athletic director, but I'm not aware of any female who has ever lettered in the game of the sport of baseball at Eastern High School. So that's another thing that I could say is you could break new ground in this school district.
True.
We'll keep at it. I mean, at this point, we're going to. I know tomorrow night we plan to have a couple of our JV guys whose brothers play on the varsity team. They're going to come in and do our game changer and our scorebook for us, because we're going to keep a paper scorebook and the game changer scorebook as well, and all that. So, yep.
Gotcha. Good stuff. So you open tomorrow.
We do. Open tomorrow at Fort Fry High School, which is. By the time people listen to a lot of people listen to this, we will have already played, unless you listen on Monday morning, and then it's tonight. It's that night. But yeah, it's going to be a tough matchup. They're good, historically a very, very good ball club.
Seems
and they've
like
had
and most things.
Yeah, I mean they've had a heck of a year this year.
Too.
They were in the state semifinal in football, and I think Final Four or Elite Eight in basketball, and so I assume that those athletes will also be playing baseball. So
some of them at least.
We know we'll have our hands full. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's the? I was doing a little research on that. I actually had a good topic coming into tonight, but you vetoed it. No, I'm just kidding.
Did I?
I gave you the idea, but then I thought you said, well, maybe we should talk about this. I'm like,
oh yeah,
man, that's a great idea.
Well, I had a good topic too when I was driving the other day, and but
now you can't remember.
I even messaged you and said, hey, I got a podcast idea. Remind me. And
next time you're gonna have to tell me what it is, and then I'll remind you.
Yeah, because I can't. I thought that I had it. I thought that I had it. That I remembered it, but I thought, oh no, we've already talked about that, because I had a thought about assistant coaches, and because I was and that actually may be it, Pat. I don't know, because I was thinking about how much I appreciated my assistant coaches that I've got. I mean, because I was and these are guys that I had to get on the fly. I mean, quick. Right?
Yeah.
And guys that I didn't know from Adam until this year. And I'm talking introduce myself to you, and oh, by the way, we start practice next week, right? And so we literally had one coaches meeting to sit down to get to know each other a little bit, and before we practiced. And I'm telling you what, man, it's these guys they're good. This is a top-notch staff. And I think one of the reasons for it is because they all have a role. We talk about kids having roles, but this is an interesting thing. In the game of baseball, every coach who coaches baseball is kind of like a jack of all trades, or thinks they should be, right? Yep. Because when you usually when you start coaching baseball, you start in youth leagues. And you're like the head coach of an 8U team or something, or a Pee Wee team or whatever. And so what do? Well, you're the guy. I mean, you coach offense, you coach defense, you coach pitching, you coach hitting, you make out the lineup, you do in-game stuff. You're the head coach. So what happens then when you become an assistant coach? Like let's say you work your way up, and the high school says, "Hey, we're looking for some assistant coaches," and you're like, "Oh, I'll throw my hat in the ring," and you get chosen to be an assistant coach. Okay, now what do? Well, you assistant coach. Well, what does that mean? Right? Well, does that mean like you're a little head coach? You just do all the same stuff that the head coach does, or do you have a role? And I got to thinking about this, and I thought, I think one of the best things for me when I first became an assistant coach, because before I was a high school varsity head coach, I was a high school varsity assistant coach. And I think one of the best things for me was that my head coach, who was over me, looked at me and said, "You're my pitching coach."
Yeah, give you a focus.
Yeah. And it wasn't that I only did pitching, but I did pitching. And he gave it to me, and he trusted me, and he let me have it. And it gave me, and so then pitchers knew, like if pitchers and I had catchers as well. And so if the pitchers and catchers needed more work, or if they knew, if they needed to talk with somebody, they actually didn't go to the head coach. They came to me, and I was the guy. I was that man. And I was thinking about that on my drive to practice one day this week, that it's been really good to define. One of the first things we did was kind of sit down and define where everybody was. And I said, you may not feel like you're an expert in this area, and that's okay. You don't have to be an expert in this area, but just focus on it. because I was the one position I never played was catcher. But when he said, well, you're also going to work with the catchers, well, guess what I did? I learned everything I could about the catching position. And I actually have more confidence in coaching catchers now probably than any other position, really. I mean, because I know so much about it now. But
sure, it's all about time, right?
It is. And so I just said, okay, Dustin, I want you to. You're probably going to spend more time with hitting. I want you to really look at guys, and their hitting, and I know that the kids love you, and so you're probably going to be on our bench coach as well. Andrew, you're going to coach first base. You'll be our first base coach, but you're also going to. I want you to focus on defense. I want you to really. If kids need work, more ground balls, they need more. First baseman need more picks. Fly balls. That's your focus, and Josh. He was the easiest because he was a catcher in college, and he came to me and said, hey, I'd love to work with your catchers. I'm like, okay, you're working with our catchers. And I said, guess what? If you're working with our catchers, that means you're also working with our pitchers. And so he's got them. Yeah. He's got the battery. And so, of course, Wes is our JV coach, so he's got kind of a head coach role as well. And so everybody has a specific role, but that's not all they do.
Sure.
Right.
But
I think having that specific role really helps because, the kids who have worked with Dustin a lot with hitting, they know, well, base running is also part of hitting. And so there have been kids that have come to Dustin and didn't come to me to say this. They came to him. Maybe it's because they were embarrassed to come to me. I don't know. Because they're like, I don't know how to slide. Can you teach me to slide? And so Dustin's like, hey, you care if I pull some kids out, while we're doing these stations and work with them on sliding? He's like, I know it's kind of an elementary school thing, a bitty ball thing to go out here and teach sliding. I'm like, no, if they don't know how to do it, then teach them to do it, right? I mean, RG3, for crying out loud, was a professional football player and never knew how to slide. They had to teach him how to do it. And so, yeah, it's okay. Go do it. And they went to him. Why? Because they know he primarily works with offense. And that's and so I don't know. I was thinking about that because I'm thinking, other sports, football's really good at this. Baseball's not. Like if you think about high school baseball, right? Most assistant coaches are just like little head coaches. They just, okay, what's your role? Well, I just help
Come on,
out.
Jimmy.
Yeah. But football has a linebackers coach and a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator and a running backs coach and an offensive line coach and a defensive line coach. And who to go to. I mean, they really specify it. And I think in baseball, we need to do that. Our game is so complex. We need to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
You're giving me way too many things to say. We've already adjusted our topic for today to assistant coaching.
That might have been actually what I was thinking, Pat. I don't know.
That's how easy it is to go for that. But I guess what you're absolutely right. Everything you said, I'm just sitting here nodding my head. When you say that, I think, when you give, really, this is true in anything you do. But if you give someone focus, that gives them the directive to spend, time learning that specific task, that specific thing. And the thing is with coaches that with head coaches that become assistant coaches, they have that knowledge and they have that experience of the way that they've approached baseball in general as a head coach. And now you really just do the same thing. You're just focused on a particular part of the game.
Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly right.
It actually makes you better at attacking it because you all of a sudden you have more time just to think about one thing. You're just focused on one thing. And, you mentioned it, that spills over into other areas as well. And sometimes you're doing, you have to shift around and pivot and do different things. And but that's okay because especially if you come from the background of being a head coach, you kind of have that experience anyway. So you're able to be flexible in that regard. So that's one thing that I was thinking of there. And then the second thing that really, and I haven't even talked to you about this personally. So this is kind of like is like golden stuff right here.
All right.
For the podcast. But here's the thing.
This is a B-dubs conversation that everyone gets to listen in on.
Yeah.
Right,
okay.
You
know what I would have, and I was like, oh, that's interesting but I think it's valuable for for other head coaches to hear this at every level and really any type of leader to hear this. You, coach, were a very successful pitcher. Not only were you a very successful pitcher, but you've been a very successful pitching coach, and you've also been a successful pitching instructor, right? And now here you are as the head coach of the Eastern Eagles baseball program, and you've turned that duty over to someone else. I think it's like, oh, that's interesting that you would do that. I feel like I understand it, but most people I think would find that hard to believe, that you would, something that you're so good at, something that you're comfortable with, something you obviously like to do, you were willing to hand that over to someone else. And, obviously Coach Burton, you trust him to do it, or you wouldn't have done it. So, but I think it's important for head coaches to know that you surround yourself with people that you can trust to do big things.
Yeah.
That's
it's a huge thing. Yeah.
It's huge. And it's not just a baseball thing. It's a leadership thing. Yeah. Great leaders are able to surround themselves with people that they're able to give responsibilities to make their team or their organization or, their program good, better.
Yeah.
Great. So
yeah.
I applaud you for that.
Well, yeah.
But it is it's kind of neat that you did it.
I appreciate that. I do. I should say this too. I did tell Coach Burton, hey, I'll probably stick my nose in it a lot too. just be ready, right? But yeah,
that's what a head coach does, right? You're going to stick your nose in everything.
And I'm doing that exactly. I said it to everybody,
sure.
Right? Don't be surprised if I walk over and help with this and help with it, but that's the beauty of it, is having the ability to see it all. Yep. I don't have to focus on one thing. I can actually walk from this area. You're out here throwing bullpens with our pitchers while we've got guys in here hitting and guys over there taking, digging balls out of first base with Coach Benedum. And I can actually walk from this area down to that area and look at them and talk to them for a little bit as well. And that's the beauty of I think being in the head coach role. And it's a sacrifice to delegate that away, something that you really enjoy and that that you're good at. But you have to. There's a leadership principle. There's a philosophy of leadership that says that if you're, every leader has strengths and weaknesses, and the key is to find what your weaknesses are and really work on those to make them better. And while there's a thread of truth in that, we should all do that, I think. I think a better philosophy is know your strengths and weaknesses and really focus on your strengths and find people who are much better where you are weak and put them in those roles.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about, building a company, right? You're not going to do it all anyway. So know where you're weak and find people to do those things for you. And I think the same thing is true for building a coaching staff for a sports team. Just recognize you're not going to be great at all of it, and find someone who's really good at it, and that's not just the aspects of the game. That's all the other things that come into play too, the intangible things, the nuanced things, like, I don't hunt, for example. I don't hunt. I don't have a farm. I don't live on a farm. I don't hunt. And so what's important to me, working with kids that do hunt, to have some assistant coaches that know how to hunt, that go out and hunt. You know what I'm saying? That has nothing to do with baseball, but it has to do with relationship building and knowing that there's going to be conversations about hunting that they're going to understand. And not that I haven't ever hunted. I think it's something that I would enjoy, but at some point in your life, you got to say no to some things. And that's just one of the things I've just never picked up. But I actually did go hunting a little bit in college. But yeah, no.
You didn't go hunting because you're always playing baseball.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess in November.
I've got an assistant coach who's a professional fisherman.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Who's that?
Coach Burton's a professional fisherman. In fact, he's got a tournament next weekend. Yeah. He's got a tournament with a big purse next weekend. I said, I'm rooting for you, Coach. You bring home $50,000 or whatever that is. I expect a press box to be built behind our baseball.
That'd be pretty neat. We should call in. We should call in and have a fishing podcast.
There's our guest. Yeah, there's
There
a
he is.
guest
We
for
could-
us
we
right
could do
there.
fishing.
Heck yeah. No
we could
doubt.
expand our viewership with a fishing discussion.
Yeah, buddy. He has
about
actually
that?
fished. I think I heard him say that he fished with someone on that. What's the tuna? The tuna,
No way.
What's it called? Yeah.
Did he say that? Is it wicked tuna? Is that what it's called? What is it? Nah, that doesn't sound right. What is it? I don't know. Everyone's
remember.
listening. They're like, it's this. You
Yeah,
idiots.
you idiots. Right. Oh, Brock would know it if he's he used to DVR that show all the time and watch it, but it's
That is it.
Is
It's
that what it
wicked
is?
tuna,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
yeah, they
was
pulled in
right,
some
Coach.
huge. Yeah, well, I think there was somebody on there that he knows or he's fished with or something. But yeah,
Is that right?
He's into it, man. Yeah.
I'll be darned. I didn't know that. Yeah. Huh. Imagine that. Well, I think one of the reasons that a head coach should approach a program that way is simply because, like we said, you got to be, if you want to make sure that all the bases are covered, there's no way that you could commit yourself to all those bases. When I say bases, I mean all the different aspects of the game. You got to split it up, to make the time, to have the time to cover, the things that you want to cover.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things to cover, that. And obviously you've spent the last few weeks preparing and going through all those things and as many things that you can cover that you could, and that all kind of comes to fruition tomorrow at Fort Fry for you guys, but for other teams, I guess for Meigs and Warren it started Saturday. And the funny thing about opening day is, I think, when I don't think this is true about baseball. In the game, and this is why baseball is such a great game, because any game that you go to in baseball, you might see something absolutely crazy.
Oh yeah.
There's something that's never happened in the game
Yeah.
before,
How often
And,
do you say that? I mean,
all the time.
all
People-
the time. You're like,
yeah.
I thought I've seen everything that I'll ever see in this game, but I've never seen that. And that happens. You're right.
I was trying to think back to like crazy things that I've known has happened on opening day in my experience, not just my experience, but in Major League Baseball and stuff like that. I did some research, and here in Ohio, especially Southeast, well, I guess Northern Ohio would be even worse, but I that'd be interesting. I would like to know how Northern Ohio handles this, because I'm sure they deal with it quite a bit. Is the weather being cold and it's snowing?
Yeah.
I know from my experience, we play baseball a lot in the snow, or at least flurries, or at least in very cold weather. But I remember one time, I think it was my junior year, we went to Belpre, and it was actually hailing. We had to come off the field because it started to hail, like I would say, I don't know, half inch size hail. And I just remember sitting on the bench, and it just looked like there was a bunch of little white bugs jumping all over the infield, because that hail would hit the ground and pop up. And I don't know, I was just wondering if there's anything crazy that's ever happened to you on opening day that maybe you didn't expect. Or
This wasn't opening day, but speaking of that kind of weather, I remember I was pitching one time, and it was a college game. We were playing at Thomas More University over towards Cincinnati, and it started snowing during the game, and it was one of those. It was like a squall, and so it was just we were getting dumped on like crazy. And it started a little bit, and then the flakes got bigger and it got thicker, and it wasn't affecting the field or anything, but it was certainly affecting vision. And I kept thinking to myself, is this umpire going to just let us keep playing in this? And so, I mean, I would release the baseball, and I wouldn't see the catcher catch it. There were certain times that snow was coming down so thick that you just kind of, you're throwing it in there, and I'm thinking, if this dude hits it, no one's gonna see where it's going. The further away you are, the worse the vision is, and
right.
So finally, I mean, it was like almost an entire half of an inning where we were out there. And I'm thinking, how are we going to get any outs? And finally, they pulled us off, and it was one of those where it stopped. But then when it stopped, the field was just covered. It was white. And so they had to go out and like wipe off the baselines. And so now the baselines were green with a little white line in between in the middle, but the field was white, and we just went ahead and played. You know, the ball
So
would
you
get
finished?
wet. Oh yeah, heck yeah, we did. Yeah, I mean that's
It's-
college ball. I mean you finished.
Did it stop snowing though?
It did. Yeah, no, it did.
enough
It was
to
just
see?
like it was like a just a yeah. Once it stopped, like the really thick stuff. I mean, it was still flurrying the whole rest of the game. Was still flurrying, but once it stopped the thick stuff, they sent us back out there and finished the game. Yeah,
Good stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, good stuff. I think it's special because it's obviously the start of a great season, but
yes,
I think a lot of people put emphasis on it, because it's in the movie Major League, Bob Uecker says, normally you can tell the way the season's going to go by the first batter of the year, and
yeah,
Hayes there hits the swinging bunt to third base and barely beats
Willie
out the
Mays
first-
Hayes. Yep.
Willie Mays Hayes.
Yep.
But you put a lot of stock into what that first game kind of shows, and honestly, we know better than that.
Right.
As baseball people, you can't really put a lot of stock in one game ever.
Yeah, you might get really fortunate and have a very clean game where there's no errors and you feel great about it. But there's a good chance that you're going to have jitters. You're going to have. I mean, you're not as good as you're going to be as you continue to play. You're going to get better as you go.
Yep.
You should,
Right.
as you continue to practice and get better throughout the year. So really, opening day, you're probably at your worst when it comes to the course of a season.
Yeah. Well, it's you would think it would have to be because it's your first regular season game.
Yeah.
So in theory, if you like you said, if you go the route that you want to take and you continue to grow and get better and all the way to that peak,
Yeah.
it would be it's your lowest point probably.
Yeah, you should still. I should clarify. You should still be as prepared as you can possibly be, which I believe
Absolutely.
we are.
Yeah.
We are as prepared as we can be. I believe our guys are ready to go, but we'll get better after tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll still get better.
Sure. Yeah.
If
Yeah,
we
just a
don't,
little-
I should be fired. I'll just say that right now.
Oh
If
my.
we don't get better,
We'll edit that out. Could we get talk to the director there to edit that out? We don't put any unneeded pressure on you. No,
well, there's a difference between getting better and not having a great record, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, and for sure.
You sure hope that it shows up on the scoreboard, but sometimes it doesn't.
Well, the record, yeah, exactly. Because and we talk about this a lot too. Result, you're not when you're talking about getting better, you're not talking about a result.
Exactly.
You're talking about the process.
That's
You're talking
exactly
about the
right.
approach.
And you're
Yeah.
talking about things that you have absolute control over.
Absolutely.
You don't always have control over the scoreboard.
Sure.
Sometimes
You don't.
if you
Wow.
just always play teams that are better than you.
Wait a second. I just thought of something though. It is your fault because you made the schedule, right? So you scheduled all these. Was Fort Fry on your schedule?
Not until
Or
last
is
week.
that- So this one's on you, Coach.
This
You
one's
better
on
come
me.
out.
Yeah.
You better come out of this with a win.
Yeah,
I don't-
that was the funny thing. We had 1 year in Athens. We scheduled a lot of big schools, a lot of schools that have had historic programs and very good tradition, and they were tough games. And we came into this 2016 into the district seeding, and we were seeded last because we had right around 500 record.
See, that's silly.
And
silly.
we went to the regional final that year.
They didn't put any stock into the losses that you had. They just looked at your
They don't-
record.
Coaches don't do that. Yeah, they look at the record and.
Yeah.
I mean, and some schools do. Some schools play that off. They're like they want that one seed, so they'll schedule a much easier schedule. But then you run the risk of just getting knocked out in the early rounds of the tournament. And I just prefer the other direction. I'd much
And
rather
that's
play
what-
tougher schools. And
regardless,
you're
of
going to
what-
take some licks during the season. Yeah.
Exactly. What are you thinking there? You're thinking we're going to play better competition, so it's going to make us better in the long run to play those schools.
When we really, the most important time of the season, which is the postseason.
Yeah. So you're actually in those situations. You're almost seeking failure. You're saying we want it to be tough.
Yeah.
Not that you go into
Not
the
that you're
game.
seeking. Yeah. You realize that it could come, and if it does, you're going to learn from it, and you're going to make it work to your advantage. You're going to get better. There's a bigger chance that it'll come when you schedule those tough teams. Yeah. So I guess you can say you're seeking failure.
I just think it's a good lesson because I've always, it's fun to win. Everybody knows
Heck
that.
Yeah.
But I tell you, it's more fun to win as an 18-year-old than it is as a 10-year-old.
Tell those 10U coaches that out there.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm kind of knocking on the window there a little bit to say, listen up, guys. You want to challenge yourself. You want to get better right now. If you're, someone's not getting paid to coach you at this stage, you need to think about what's going to happen when you get to that point. And
you guys aren't paying Coach Grimm?
Well, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
We can't talk about that.
Oh,
I didn't. We haven't disclosed his contract details to the parents.
Wait a minute, that's a 10U team. You paying a 10U coach, but not a 15U coach?
Oh shoot! See, like I said, we're not talking about that.
Okay.
We just have. Listen, I couldn't schedule contract negotiations with you anyway. I can't get you to fill out the paperwork as it is. Too busy.
Can't get me to book a hotel room.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what you want me to do, but the contract negotiation is last on the list, Coach.
Okay.
But we'll get to it.
Okay.
We get to it. I promise. I gotta deal with our assistant coaches before I get to you.
There you go.
Make sure they stick around. Some 10U coaches get paid.
Oh no, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know they do.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
It's a weird phenomenon.
Yeah. Sports industry. Sports industry is a big deal right now.
It is.
Sure. All right, Coach. Well, good luck tomorrow, man.
I appreciate
away
it.
Game.
It's an away game. About 45 minutes from school.
45 minutes. I know you're looking forward to the bus ride up, bus ride back.
Always.
Yeah.
No, I actually enjoy that. I actually enjoy riding the buses. It's a good opportunity to hang out with the kids and get talk to the coaches that are on there with you and get things just kind of ready to go.
Well, and I would say for the teams that do ride it, it's a good, especially on the way home, it's a good time to reflect and kind of, after the losses or the bad showings, is a good time to heal together.
It is.
Right?
It is. It's an important thing. And it's one of those things right now where, unfortunately in the world that we're living in, there have been a lot of changes about procedures and things like that right now. And so our school district does have a rule that if your family goes to the game, they want everybody who has a parent at the game to ride home with their parents. And so I have to post a sign out sheet, a chart. And we've typically only been having 4 or 5 guys on the bus on the way home. But as soon as all the COVID stuff's over, we're changing that. I've always demanded that or expected all of our players to ride the bus home.
Have you ever got any kickback on that? Because I know,
no, not if you just say this is what it is and this is what we're doing. It's part of the experience. The way Gibby used to put it was, if I got to ride it, you got to ride it. that was it, said and done, right? And that's it was just no, and it is. It's important for all those reasons. It's important because it's if a kid has a bad game, unfortunately, as well as I do, Pat, when he's riding home with mom and dad's going to probably one or the other is probably going to make it worse, make him feel worse. I mean, unintentionally, right? In trying to talk about it.
Maybe not unintentionally.
In trying to, well, yeah, that's true too. But in trying to make him feel better, while his peers aren't going to do that. They're just not.
You're right.
They don't do that. What do? They talk about other stuff on the way home. And so by the time he gets back to that school parking lot, he's not thinking about that final strikeout anymore. Everything's cool. Yeah. But that's just one example of why I think it's a good reason to ride the bus home. it's part of the whole experience. The whole scholastic sports experience is bigger than just what happens on the field. And the bus ride is one of those experiences that unfortunately a lot of kids miss out on because they're allowed to sign out and go.
Yeah. I wonder, I'd be interested in how many schools do that. How many programs, what's what the percentage is in that. That'd be interesting to know.
Require people to ride home.
Yeah.
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 I don't know.
High school coaches get enough flack for other things, let alone give them an opportunity to get on you because you're making their kid ride home instead of. There's
a lot of one reason I used to give was you don't want to become one of those school districts that loses your bus trip home, because there are a lot, there are administrators out there who look for ways to cut budgets.
Yeah, and there's only 2 or 3 kids riding the bus home. What do we need to do?
If it's consistently like that, then they're going to say, why are we paying an overtime bus driver to sit out there for 3 or 4 hours at a game when all they got to do is drop you off and come home, and then everybody finds their ride home, on their own. And there are school districts that have made that decision and said we only take 2 trips. We don't make we only take road trips to the game. We don't make the trip back to the school. And not all kids have rides home.
Right. True.
You're going to lose kids to sports if you do that. And so that's another reason that I said, I'm like, we want a full bus on the way home because we want to show that we need this.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if people just marvel about how we can go off on so many different tangents sometimes.
I know.
Chastity's not, she doesn't get excited about it because she's been around me for so long. So it's just like she's like, oh yeah, he can talk forever. But I wonder if we get it. I wonder if anyone else out there is kind of appreciative of just the way that it doesn't matter.
I don't know. They might just turn it off at the time that gets to this part. Yeah, I don't know.
Too bad we can't tell viewers by segment.
Yeah, at what point they turned it off, right?
Yeah. Like all of our viewers we get probably turn it off in the first 10 minutes.
I've heard everything I need to know. It's like a book. You buy a book, if you get one good thing out of it, it's worth $20 or whatever. It's like, well, okay, first 5 minutes, I got something I can use. I'm done. We got to tell people, hey, look, all the good stuff happens at the end. All the good stuff we talk about happens at the end.
Well, we're pretty open. We tell people, hey, if you want to talk about something, reach out to us and tell us. We'll talk about it. If you don't like what we're talking about, we'll even invite you on and argue with us about it. So,
and that gives us an out too, because some of the topics we talk about, we've gotten the idea from somebody else. And so if the topic was terrible, it's like, well, that wasn't ours. That wasn't our idea.
Right. The opinions on this show are not. They're not representative of Chris and Pat.
Yeah. Hey, why don't you guys talk about this? Okay, cool. It was a dud. That wasn't our idea.
It wasn't our idea. Good stuff. Well, we appreciate everyone listening, and hope you're still with us, and we'll keep churning out content as we can. But,
yes, sir.
Coach, good luck tomorrow, and
thank you.
Hope you guys do well. Hope you have a good time and enjoy some high school baseball, because as we know, I guess it's a privilege, right?
It is a privilege.
We're not always we don't always have.
Yeah.
We can say that officially.
It's a privilege that can be taken away.
Yep.
And it has been taken away before.
Has been taken away.
And it is back tomorrow. It is back now.
Baseball's back.
Yep.
It's a good day. We're getting close. We're getting close to that victory day. Pat Martin's victory day. I'll have a speech or something planned when we get there.
Okay.
Now everyone's going to be hanging on to every podcast we publish from here on out. They want to know what that Pat Martin victory day is going to be like when we're through all this stuff. It's coming, folks. It's coming. Thanks for joining us.
Go Eagles.